You guys have learned the basics of the cars. You know more or less what you guys should be doing. So we're going to set you guys free. We're going to let you guys go do some open laps. We're going to have an instructor placed in almost every corner of the track, giving you guys feedback as you're going around. You guys are going to go to a program that we call the stop or slow box in these cars, for example. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our whole lap. We're going to charge out of turn 11, our last corner. We're going to charge, we're going to have these cones set up, and that's where we want you guys to practice your braking for us. We want you guys to practice getting on the brakes hard and shifting down the gearbox. We'll get you rolling again. You'll have an instructor at the end of these cones that we've marked out, and then we'll send you on your next lap and keep going for about 20 minutes, and you guys will hopefully get some good drive time.
And if one of the instructors out on the track had something specific they wanted you to change about what you were doing on their part of the track, they'd pull you in and give you a bit of schooling over the radio.
You know, once you feel that compression, start to roll back on the gas, and I want to see you track all the way to the exit curbing on the left-hand side, then come back across to the right for turn 11. That's it. Good to go.
Awesome. Go for it, man. Awesome.
After lunch, we start to think about how to drive the car quickly. You know, driving the car is step one. Driving the car quickly is step two. And it's a bit of a different animal. As you guys experience, there's a lot to think about. And it's really important to simplify that focus. And our instructors do a good job of giving concise feedback to narrow the focus and so the drivers can have particular goals and maybe 1 or 2 goals per session to keep improving. And we pride ourselves in the fact that all of our drivers get better as the day goes on.
It was about this time, viewers, that I was in my element. I've done hundreds of laps at this track at home on iRacing, that's a computer simulator, and it felt great to start to find the braking points and the turn-in points and to build up speed. I was absolutely brimming with confidence, but then, on only the 3rd lap of that very first slow box session, whoa, let's see that again. Now, spinning isn't something that the school takes lightly. It's a very clear indication that something's gone horribly wrong, but it's also a really important learning opportunity. So at the end of the lap, Tom pulled me over and we talked it through.
And I got on the gas probably as I was coming over the rise.
Yeah.
And lost traction.
What I'm noticing, it probably has a lot to do with what I'm seeing in turn 11. You're going through turn 11 and you've got a lot of overlap, meaning you guys still got a lot of wheel in it.
Yeah.
And you're going to power.
Yeah.
So the steering wheel and the string theory, you're breaking the string.
Smoother.
You could actually just be opening the hands sooner, but I think you're trying to corner harder than you need to and overlap. So hearing you describe the spin in turn 6, it sounds like you probably went through the compression and left your wheel where it was.
Yeah, and you came out of the compression.
As the car hits the compression, it's important to unwind the wheel and look for the exit cone and have that be your visual for kind of driving out towards the exit.
Got it.
Give that a try.
Got it, okay.
Sorry about the audio just now, but I've kept that in the show because that moment, for me, was a light bulb moment. Considering Tom didn't even see the incident, he absolutely nailed what I'd been doing wrong. Turn 6 is a bit of a roller coaster, and right at the apex there's a lot of compression, which basically means there's more weight on the tyres than when the car's standing still. That extra weight gives you extra grip, so you can turn harder. But when that weight comes off again, if you don't ease off the steering input to match, then this is what happens. Of course, all this is happening in the blink of an eye, but that term he used, unwinding the wheel, really stuck with me through the rest of the course, and it planted the concept so firmly into my head, I was a totally new driver after that. Now, having said that, me and Turn 6 still weren't friends for a very long time after that happened.
In the afternoon sessions, when we're let loose and we're all getting better and better as drivers, they basically told us, boys, we're not going to be putting transponders or any timing equipment on these cars today. We'll do that tomorrow, because if we do that on the first day, you're not going to be concentrating on how to drive a car better. All you're going to be concentrating on is your lap times. So it was great. You know, we were out there on that first day. We had no idea what our lap times were. We only knew what it felt like in the car. You know, I remember a few times where, you know, things got a bit squirrely for me. I remember Camera 3 did a beautiful 360 spin. You know, and these were all things that you'd learn on day one, not to do on day two when you get to step it up a notch. But I must admit, the afternoon session, you know, basically we had another 4 or 5 sessions each driving that car, And that afternoon session, 4-hour block, felt like it went in 20 minutes. Because even when you get out of the car, you've got instructors there going, right, this is what you need to be doing later. You're letting off the accelerator at least 50 meters way before you should.
And viewers, you're going to hear heaps more about what we were doing wrong on the track. I mean, seriously, we've got plenty of footage of that. Anyway, you'll hear some of it after the break. Welcome back to Bloke's World, and we're having just about the best time of our lives, learning to drive these Allenberg Racing School's Formula Renault race cars. It's a 2-day course, and we're currently in the afternoon of day 1. We've just finished a couple of slow box sessions on the track, which is basically a free lapping session, except that on the main straight, you jam on the anchors at those cones, you cruise over the start-finish line in first gear, and then you take off again. It's an extra chance on each lap to practice braking and downshifting in a safe place, but also every few laps, the instructors pull you over and give you something new to work on. And I can't even tell you how much we've learned in such a short amount of time.
After that, we're going to go into our open lapping session. And that's the same deal, except you're not going to stop. You're just going to keep going, driving through your session, doing your own deal, driving your own drive. If we do see something spectacular happening, we'll pull you guys in and talk to you about it. But normally, you guys are really good. You all know what you're doing, so you guys will have a good fun time doing your laps. Then we'll come in at the end of the session. We'll have an instructor talk to you guys about what's going on, how we can maybe help you improve, and then you'll go out for your next session later on in the day.
So when it comes down to the open sessions, when we get to go out without a pace car, that's where things get real. And we basically don't start in a racing grid format. They let us go with enough time to have a bit of breathing room in between one another. And then around the track, what they seem to do is they put all the different instructors. Now with the Allenberg Race School, I think there probably would have been around about 11 or 12 instructors on the day, and they're positioned at every different track. So they're making notes. So when you've actually gone around there and you're thinking to yourself, man, I am on the money. Man, I am so fast. You pull in, and as soon as you pull in, you basically stand there, and it's like having 12 different drill sergeants come up and tell you what you've been doing wrong.
So I was in turn 10. So what I want you to work on is from here to here, be a little bit easier on the brakes. So instead, right now, you're getting to this point and being like, holy crap, and doing this whole lot of stopping, and then you're off the brakes, and then you can accelerate, which is not a bad thing, but this just means you can gain so much more time on the entry. You can stay on these brakes a little bit longer. So try moving your brake point a little bit farther down. Try going farther into the corner on the gas. Then use the brake pressure, increase, and then decrease as you get your direction. Yep. Off the brakes, get your car turned, and then on the gas by here.
It is a school, it isn't a driving experience. I mean, it isn't just get in a car and go and drive. The whole point of this school is to make you a better driver and to make you faster and to make you understand the physics of driving a fast car.
Turn 11 down here, you're kind of using the brakes the same way my grandma enters the Safeway parking lot. So,
whoa, who's this cheeky fella then? Well, let's find out.
My name is Matt Crushy. I'm one of the instructors here at Allenberg Racing Schools. It's kind of a you name it job. I'll be manning the flag station to doing data analysis, video review, coaching, everything like that. So I got a relatively late start in racing. Most kids start when they're about 5 or 6 years old. I actually started when I was 19. I was very fortunate. I placed first out of 400,000 people in a national simulator competition called GT Academy. That's what kind of started my career.
Well, there you have it, viewers. It is possible to turn your racing game addiction into a career. You just have to beat the 400,000 other people trying to do it. But on a serious note, with simulators available these days that look as lifelike as this, I asked Matt what he thinks about them as a training tool.
So sim racing, the number one thing that it is useful for is just learning where the hell you're going. Because very commonly you'll go to a new track and you'll go, what turn is this? And then you'll start making the wrong direction, work your way back. It just starts to develop some muscle memory that you at least know which way you're going. And then further than that, each simulator tends to be pretty good for certain things here and there. There are pros and cons to each one. Oh man, I just got mooned in the background, sorry. So simulators are really good for just learning the track. And then when you get a little further into them, they tend to be very good for iRacing, very good for developing racecraft. That's where you get to really battle against some other cars and start learning your racecraft techniques. And let's say Gran Turismo, that's another one that I used. That was very good for developing car control. One of my favorite statistics is that I actually have not yet spun a car on a racetrack in my entire career, and I devote that entirely to Gran Turismo and developing my car control on that, learning how to slide the car, catch it with the wheel. Technology's come pretty far, so it's nice to know that you can practice that on a simulator.
But the other side of the coin is, once you've been on track at the real-life Laguna Seca, playing it on a game just doesn't cut it anymore. Anyway, it's time for a break now, but when we come back, we'll find out what Matt really thought of our driving.
So finishing the day, we strapped some GoPros on the car and we took a look at Ado and camera 3, kind of on board, seeing what's going on. Camera 3 looking really good. I'm really excited for what he can do tomorrow. I like it. Pretty decisive turn in there, just trying to get the car rotated, right? Get it in, boom, hit it. Just off you go, all the way to the outside, that's it. And if I'm nitpicking, you could have used an extra half foot on the curb in there. It makes a difference. Every little inch counts, so get all the way to the outside there. Ado, he's, I don't know how to put this. He's got a lot of work to do. I mean, I'm actually not sure he's hit the gas pedal 100% yet. So we should be going, you know, flat out over the top of turn 1, and you should be braking here. That's where you should start, and then you can move your way forward. You should be flat out until, at the very least, you can see the turn at the bottom of the hill. Yeah. So I still can't see it here. Now I can see it. That's where maybe where you want to start, and then we'll just push further and further. Okay. This is the part of the track to practice your hard braking. It's got the safest amount of runoff on the right side, so even if you do mess it up a little bit, you got a bit more room to correct it.
We should point out, viewers, we've used the funny parts of Matt's interview because his sledging was almost as sharp as his driving. But for regular students of the school, that's anyone other than Ado, they didn't really care about your current driving ability other than to use that as a baseline to see how they could get you to improve. You don't need any racing experience to do this, so especially on day 1, we saw quite a range of skill levels.
The great thing about Laguna Seca is that the whole track is accessible by car. And we could basically get in a car and get one of the instructors to drive us to any section of the track. Number 1, of course, is the corkscrew. So camera 3 and I headed up there in the afternoon and got to watch the other drivers going through the corkscrew, and it's a great way to actually learn what you're doing, is watching somebody else do it. And I mean, it was like one of those pinch yourself moments. It's like standing in an iron mine in Austria, watching guys ride their dirt bikes, you know. It's like watching guys go up a hill in Antler. There's that moment when both of us are standing there and we don't have to say anything. We can just look at each other and go, man, yeah, tick. You know, I can't even explain, but I'll try and explain it the best I can. The topography of the corkscrew is a corner that you come into it blind, and then before you know it, with the way that you sit in this car, you're not seeing the corner. You come over the hill, then you turn and you trust that it's there, and then you don't see the corner until the car actually drops like that. You're kind of like aiming the car into a bunch of trees, but then the car will drop onto the track and it's so off camber that you can just gas it straight out with the bottom corner cambering the reverse way. So it just, the whole thing just swings. And you know, when camera 3 and I were up there just watching different crew come through, and you could see the guys that were a bit worried about crashing the car, you know, and you could see the other guys that were just, you know, there for the day. And that's the thing about this school. You know, we did the 2-day course. You know, there were a lot of guys that were there just for the first day. So, you know, we had more people on the first day than we did on the second day. So it gave us more of an opportunity on that first day to actually watch what other people were doing.
Well, speaking of guys who were just there on the first day, let's meet one of them now.
My name is Peter Lindsay. I'm here at Laguna Seca racing around the track. It is my bachelor party this week. I'm with a bunch of my buddies and I have no idea what's going on. They have kind of just put me in a bunch of different scenarios, packed my bags and brought me here. So I'm having a blast. It's awesome. I'm just enjoying life right now. I think with every lap, there's little adjustments that you make. I'm a big talker, so in my helmet, I'm talking to myself, telling myself where the entry point is, where the exit point is of each turn. And each time I'm braking a little later, getting on the gas a little bit sooner. So I think from beginning to end, I've improved probably 50% off my first lap time. This is the first time I've been to Laguna Seca's race school, and this was absolutely the best that I've seen so far. The instruction was fantastic. The freedom was fantastic. I think a lot of places try to put you into a box too much, but this has been unbelievable. Track's beautiful, day's beautiful. Couldn't be happier with the experience. I just kept pushing it harder and harder and harder as the day went on. That last lap, I would say, out of the 11 turns, probably 5 or 6 of them, I was counter steering to keep the car in check and really just pushing it through those apex the best that I possibly could. So I had a clean day, which is the best day, right? Keep the shiny side up.
Well, stick around because after the break, we're going to tell you a bit about these cars we're driving. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Blokes World. Welcome back to Blokes World at Allenberg Racing School's Laguna Seca Raceway, California. It's near the end of day 1 of our 2-day course, and for the entire half of the day, we've been open lapping in these awesome Formula Renault 1600s. They're pretty comparable to Formula Fords in Australia, with one important difference: they run on slick tyres. So where grooved street tyres would give you a bit of warning before they let go, these slicks grip like they're on rails, right up until they don't.
The Formula Renault 1600 car is a slow race car, but it's still a race car. It can outperform most street cars at twice the horsepower. So it's important that we dial the speed up gracefully.
The tyres on these things were slicks, and I've never driven a car with slicks on them ever. As far as grip goes, and just staying into the zone, these things do not move. They only go where you point them. They just grip and bite the track. And I guess that has to do a lot with the amount of surface area they've got hitting the track. But man, if I want to have slicks on my car now, I want to get slicks on my Land Cruiser. They are just the best fun to drive on.
They tend to respond really well, particularly in corner entry, the way a go-kart does. Particularly the young karter kids that come join our school are often fast right away. And it's a pleasure for us because we actually have to pull the reins back on them, whereas with many of our students, we're gently pushing them forward to help them get faster and faster. But people who have karting experience are right at home, and we often have to actually slow them down a bit. Things happen in the race car a little slower, even though the vehicle's moving faster. There's suspension movement and there's weight transfer to manage, and so we pull the reins back and get them thinking more analytically about their driving inputs.
That's what we're about here, is basically getting you to get the techniques right, starting off in a really fun mid-power car that you're actually going to be able to learn things in. If you jump into a 500 horsepower car right off the bat, you're probably going to plow it straight off the edge of the track. It's going to take you a really long time to learn everything, so these are a great platform to learn from.
And for the final word on the cars, let's get the details straight from Allenberg himself.
The cars that I selected for these schools are race cars that ran in a series known as Formula Renault. These are full carbon fiber chassis race cars, elliptical tubing on the suspension, monoshock front suspension, which is what is used in lower level races, smaller race cars. So limits the amount of roll. We have 5-speed sequential gearboxes on the car, so there still is a shift lever. You need to learn how to drive a manual transmission, which we will teach in a matter of about 15 minutes. And we have the cars outfitted with GoPro systems, data systems that we use for the feedback. The cars also are full racing slicks provided by our tire sponsor, Lansale Tires.
And we're going to hear a lot more from Allenberg in next week's episode of Blokes World. He wasn't able to join us on the first day of our course, but on day 2, he met us at the track at 6 a.m. for a track walk. And I can tell you, that was worth the price of entry alone. Because if you're not familiar with his work, he's one of the fastest Canadians on the planet, having raced in a stack of different series, including Formula One. He's an absolute legend, both as a competitor and as a driving coach and instructor. So don't miss next week. We'll see you then.
Well, that's all we can fit in tonight's episode of Blokes World. I hope you enjoyed it. But right now, why don't you head over to our website to grab one of these awesome new packs, which will see you getting a Blokes World Flaming Wallet, a DVD sampler featuring all the action when we went to the Ambler Hill Climb in Belgium, as well as that, some action from the 24 Hours Lemons race. You'll also receive a packet of Jack's Black Label beef jerky, a stubby cooler, some stickers, a badge, and guess what? It all comes with free postage. We'll see you next week.